Machines and the Emotions, an essay by Bertrand Russell. Will machines destroy emotions or will emotions destroy machines? This question was suggested long ago by Samuel Butler, but it is growing more and more actual as the empire of machinery is enlarged. At first sight, it is not obvious why there should be any opposition between machines and emotions. Every normal boy loves machines. The bigger and more powerful they are, the more he loves them. Nations which have long traditions of artistic excellence, like the Japanese, are captivated by Western mechanical methods as soon as they come across them, and long only to imitate us as soon as possible. Nothing annoys an educated and travelled ascetic so much as to hear praise of the wisdom of the East or the traditional virtue of ascetic civilization. He feels as a boy would feel who was told to play with dolls instead of tall automobiles, and like a boy he would prefer a real automobile to a toy one, not realizing that it may run over him. In the West, when machinery was new, there was the same delight in it, except on the part of a few poets and aesthetes. The 19th century considered itself superior to its predecessors, chiefly because of its mechanical progress. Machines are worshipped because they are beautiful and valued because they confer power. They are hated because they are hideous and loved because they impose slavery. Do not let us suppose that one of these attitudes is right and the other wrong, any more than it would be right to maintain that men have heads, but wrong to maintain they have feet. Though we can easily imagine Lilliputians disputing the question concerning Gulliver. A machine is like a jinn in the Arabian Nights, beautiful and beneficent to its master, but hideous and terrible to his enemies. But in our day, nothing is allowed to show itself with such naked simplicity. The master of the machine, it is true, lives at a distance from it, while he cannot hear its noise or see its unsightly heaps of slag, or smell its noxious fumes. If he ever sees it, the occasion is before it is installed in use, when he can admire its force or its delicate precision without being troubled by dust and heat. But when he is challenged to consider the machine from the point of view of those who have to live with it and work it, he has a ready answer. He can point out that, owing to its operations, these men can purchase more goods, often vastly more, than their great-grandfathers could. It follows they must be happier than their great-grandfathers, if we are to accept an assumption which is made by everyone. The assumption is that the possession of material commodities is what makes men happy. It is thought that a man who has 2 rooms, 2 beds and 2 loaves must be twice as happy as a man who has 1 room, 1 bed and 1 loaf. In a word, it is thought that happiness is proportional to income. A few people, not always quite sincerely, challenge this idea in the name of religion or morality. But they are glad if they increase their income by the eloquence of their preaching. It is not from a moral or religious point of view that I wish to challenge it. It is from the view of psychology and observation of life. If happiness is proportional to income, the case for machinery is unanswerable. If not, the whole question remains to be examined. Men have physical needs and they have emotions. While physical needs are unsatisfied, they take first place. But when they are satisfied, emotions unconnected with them become important in deciding whether a man is to be happy or unhappy. In modern industrial communities, there are many men, women, and children whose bare physical needs are not adequately supplied. As regards them, I do not deny that the first requisite for happiness is an increase of income. But they are a minority, and it would not be difficult to give the bare necessities of life to all of them. It is not of them that I wish to speak, but of those who have more than is necessary to support existence. Not only those who have much more, but also those who have only a little more. Why do we, in fact, almost all of us, desire to increase our incomes? It may seem at first sight as though material goods were that we desire, but in fact we desire these mainly in order to impress our neighbors. When a man moves into a large house in a more genteel quarter, he reflects that better people will call on his wife, and some unprosperous cronies of former days can be dropped. When he sends his sons to a good school or an expensive university, he consoles himself for the heavy fees by thoughts of the social kudos to be gained. In every big city, whether of Europe or of America, houses in some districts are more expensive than equally good houses in other districts, merely because they are more fashionable. One of the most powerful of all passions is the desire to be admired and respected. As things stand, admiration and respect are given to the man who seems to be rich. This is the chief reason why people wish to be rich. The actual goods purchased by their money play quite a secondary part. Take for example a millionaire who cannot tell one picture from another but has acquired a gallery of old masters by the help of experts. The only pleasure he derives from his picture is the thought that others know how much they have cost. All this might be different and has been different in many societies. In aristocratic epochs, men have been admired for their birth. In some circles in Paris, men are admired for their artistic excellence, strange as it may seem. In a German university, a man may actually be admired for his learning. In India, saints are admired. In China, sages. The study of these different societies shows the correctness of our analysis. For in all of them, we find a large percentage of men who are indifferent to money, so long as they have enough to keep alive on, but are keenly desirous of the merits of by which in their environment respect is to be won. The importance of these facts lies in this, that modern desire for wealth is not inherent in human nature and could be destroyed by different social institutions. If by law we all had exactly the same income, we should have to seek some other ways of being superior to our neighbors, and most of our present craving for material possessions would cease. Moreover, since this craving is in the nature of a competition, it only brings happiness when we outdistance a rival, to whom it brings correlative pain. A general increase in wealth gives no competitive advantage and therefore brings no competitive happiness. There is, of course, some pleasure derived from the actual enjoyment of goods purchased, but as we have seen, this is very small part of what makes us desire wealth. And in so far as our desire is competitive, no increase of human happiness as a whole comes from increase of wealth, whether general or particular. If we are to argue that machinery increases happiness, therefore the increase of material prosperity which it brings cannot weigh heavily in its favor, except in so far as it may be used to prevent absolute destitution. But there is no inherent reason why it should be so used. Destitution can be prevented without machinery. While the population is stationary, of this France may serve as an example, since there is very little destitution and much less machinery than in America, England and pre-war Germany. Conversely, there may be much destitution where there is much machinery. Of this we have examples in the industrial areas of England 100 years ago and of Japan at the present day. The prevention of destitution does not depend upon machines, but on other factors, partly density of population and partly political conditions. And apart from prevention of destitution, the value of increasing wealth is not very great. Meanwhile, machines deprive us of two things, which are certainly important ingredients of human happiness, namely spontaneity and variety. Machines have their own insistent demands. A man who has an expensive plant must keep it working. The great trouble with the machine from the point of view of emotions is its regularity. And of course, conversely, the great objection to the emotions from the point of view of the machine is their irregularity. As the machine dominates the thought of people who consider themselves serious, the highest praise they can give to a man is to suggest that he has the qualities of a machine, that he is reliable, punctual, exact, etc. And an irregular life has come to be synonymous with a bad life. In life, as opposed to thought, the rebellion of our instincts against enslavement to mechanism has hitherto taken a most unfortunate direction. The impulse to war has always existed since men took to living in societies, but it did not in the past have the same intensity or violence as it has in our day. In the 18th century, England and France had innumerable wars and contended for the hegemony of the world, but they liked and respected each other the whole time. Officer prisoners joined in the social life of their captors and were honored guests at their dinner parties. The greater ferocity of modern war is attributable to machines, which operate in three different ways. First, they make it possible to have larger armies. Secondly, they facilitate a cheap press which flourishes by appealing to men's baser passions. Thirdly, and that is the point that concerns us, they starve the anarchic, spontaneous side of human nature which works underground, producing an obscure discontent to which the thought of war appeals as affording possible relief. It is a mistake to attribute a vast upheaval like the late war merely to the machinations of politicians. In Russia, perhaps, such an explanation would have been adequate. That is one reason why Russia fought half-heartedly and made a revolution to secure peace. But in England, Germany and the United States in 1917, no government could have withstood the popular demand for war. A popular demand of this sort must have an instinctive basis, and for my part, I believe that the modern increase in warlike instinct is attributable to the dissatisfaction, mostly unconscious, caused by the regularity, monotony, and tameness of modern life. It is obvious that we cannot deal with this situation by abolishing machinery. Such a measure would be reactionary and in any case impracticable. The only way of avoiding the evil at present associated with machinery is to provide breaks in the monotony with every encouragement to high adventure during the intervals. Machines have altered our way of life, but not our instincts. Consequently, there is maladjustment. The whole psychology of the emotions and instincts is yet in its infancy. A beginning has been made by psychoanalysis, but only a beginning. What we may accept from psychoanalysis is the fact that people will, in action, pursue various ends which they do not consciously desire, and will have an attendant set of quite irrational beliefs which enable them to pursue these ends without knowing that they are doing so. But orthodox psychoanalysis has unduly simplified our unconscious purposes, which are numerous and differ from one person to another. It is to be hoped that social and political phenomena will soon come to be understood from this point of view, and will thus throw light on average human nature. Moral self-control and external prohibition of harmful acts are not adequate methods of dealing with our anarchic instincts. The only adequate method is to discover what are the needs of our instinctive nature, and then to search for the least harmful way of satisfying them. Since spontaneity is what is most thwarted by machines, the only thing that can be provided is opportunity. The use made of opportunity must be left to the initiative of the individual. No doubt, considerable expense would be involved, but it would not be comparable to the expense of war. Understanding of human nature must be the basis of any real improvement in human life. Science has done wonders in mastering the laws of the physical world, but our own nature is much less understood as yet than the nature of stars and electrons. When science learns to understand human nature, it will be able to bring happiness into our lives, which machines and the physical sciences have failed to create.